Woo, wasabi guys, coming back at you with another video. It is your pal Void here. Let me guys know what your pre-release experience was for Hour of Devastation. I can't wait to know. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I want to spend this whole video just talking about my thoughts on Hour of Devastation as a set, now that it's been given enough time to sink in. Just looking at a lot of the cards, it's easy to tell what is overrated and, what is actually going to stand the test of time. And mainly I'm going to form the basis off of, is it going to be playable in Commander? Because if you compare it to Amonkhet, Amonkhet didn't have a lot of Commander support. There were obviously, like, Hepatra was everybody's favorite option from that whole set. But as, the set itself just didn't offer that much support. And mainly why is because the gods just failed to deliver. When you look at the Theros gods, they were commander playable for the most part. Some were just trash, but there were a ton of commanders to choose from of the gods, because you had the 10 multicolored gods, and then you had the 5 monocolored gods to choose from. The gods from Amonkhet, or the first 5 I should say, were rather tame and obviously geared towards standard or limited, and they didn't really stand out to me as commander options. And if they did, it was usually, oh, there's something that's way better than it that does kind of what it does. And that's where I basically form my basis for basically my hypothesis about anything Amonkhet related is going to be, oh, did the gods stand up to the Theros gods? And I basically come to the conclusion by looking at something like Bantu and saying, oh, there's better creatures, like Yeheni in Aether Revolt is a better creature that does a very similar thing to Bantu and does it a lot better. Sacking creatures make it indestructible. That's very good. And you get +1/+1 counters whenever a creature dies. So that's also good. And Bantu just doesn't really stand up. And if you look at like Ronus, very standard and limited in terms of its playability, but not really anything good in Commander that we don't already have an excess of, which is just good value creatures that are indestructible. And I think also had Trample or Death Touch, I can't remember. But that's basically the whole thing there. There's a ton of big creatures in Commander, so just having indestructibility and it's not good enough. So when I look at Hour of Devastation, cards that seem overrated to me at first, Ronus' Last Stand and Oketra's Last Mercy, I guess you could, yeah, they're all last except for Hazaret. I don't know how far the story is right now. She may live, we don't know for certain, because I think hers was Undying instead of Last, so there may be, storyline where she's actually surviving, but anyway, I digress. When I look at Ronus' Last Stand, 2 mana for a 5/5 is pretty good. However, you don't get a next untap step. So you have to really look at it and analyze every little detail about it. The 5/5 you get is a creature token, so the creature itself isn't something that you can recur and try to bring back. It has no other keywords or abilities other than just being a 5/5. So you have to really look at it from a value standpoint. In something like Limited, this is going to be pretty good. In fact, if you have this in Limited, you're most likely going to hold on to it, because it's going to be one of those cards that's going to just win a lot of head-to-head matchups against other creatures, because a 2 for 5/5 is pretty good. That's pretty good. And the whole untap step, yeah, you're gonna miss out on your next turn most likely if you play this early on, but who cares? You get a 5/5 early on in the game, and in a limited environment that is supposed to be a lot more tame than what it used to be way back in the day, and especially as far as standard's concerned. And another card, well, Oketra's Last Mercy, I should say, 3 mana to have your life total become, I guess, what the original life total. I don't have the card right in front of me, so I don't remember what it specifically says, but it's definitely one of those cards that some people said this is a good card against Burn, which I do not argue that at all. If you're playing Modern Burn, or that those games are not going to, if you're a mid-range deck going up against Burn, you're going to struggle, so you need something to kind of counteract that. And what you typically sideboard to prepare for burn is always going to be life gain spells. It's even down in Pauper, you see that. So, 3 mana in Modern, and you skip your next untap step is always good against burn. But as far as that goes, I don't think it's overrated because, it is what it is. We already know what these type of effects do. The only downside is, you do untap. So another overrated card that I think a lot of people have been questionable about, to say the least, is Suncrested Mare. The 5/5 for 5 horse that gives other horse creatures you control indestructible, and at the end step, if you gained life that turn, you get to create a 5/5 horse creature token, which is going to gain indestructible. So a lot of people were like, oh my god, this is so good. Getting 5/5s each end step is good, but it's not something that is going to last, and it's not something that's going to be efficient. I think a lot of people think that this is going to just be a win con or just be a powerhouse in a standard format, where we do have that 4 mana exiling black spell that's coming out. So in the same set too, I forget what that one's called, but it's the one where the Scorpion God is killing Ronus in the picture. So if that gives you any hint as to what the actual card is, Suncrested Mare just doesn't really seem like something that's hard to deal with. It has no other abilities other than just indestructible. It doesn't have trample, doesn't give them anything like that. And you have to build your deck around life gain. Let me go ahead and tell you how much bullshit that is going to be. You could try, and you might actually make a decent deck, but it's not going to... You're going to struggle to find a good balance when you're depending on life gain to make one card in your deck function. And even if it does function well, Suncrested Mare, you're most likely going to need 2 of them out at the same time. So that's 2 Suncrested Mares you're going to need in order to really scare your opponents. Otherwise, exiling removal is most likely going to take care of it. And it itself doesn't have indestructible too. I failed to mention that. So once you get it out, if your opponent doesn't have something like a Fatal Push or something pretty cheap removal, that can get rid of it, no problem. The other horse doesn't have indestructible anymore, so they're really depending on getting 2 Suncrested Mares out. So the benefit is that it's not legendary, so you can't play it in Commander. Which brings me on to the overall assessment of legendaries in the set. And I think Giroux was one of them. He's the guy in the lore who's basically one of the champions that's... I think for Samut, I don't remember, but he's definitely, kind of partnered up with Samut in the story so far. So that's as much as I know. But really, his creature's like a 5 mana legendary. When it ETBs, you get to tutor up a Planeswalker. And I think, it's sort of, he does like a kind of a, I forget. But anyway, I just don't think that's an awesome commander option, but it's something for Super Friends. So as far as that goes, take it or leave it. I don't really care about Super Friends all that much, so, take my advice or don't take it. I don't really care. But the one I'm actually excited for, and I think one of my first videos I made was dissing Sphinx Tribal, but with Unesh Cryosphinx Sovereign, or was it Cryosphinx Sovereign? Yeah, I think that's what it was called. But anyway, it's the Sphinx dude who basically makes your Sphinx spells cast 2 less, and whenever a Sphinx you control enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 4. It's basically fact or fiction from there on out. I think the difference is actually you separate them into 2 piles, and then your opponent selects them, which one you take. So it's a bit different, but it's definitely worth it. It's good card manipulation, card draw. Why not? Can't go wrong anytime you can get good consistency in a tribal theme. So, I forget the other ones. Yeah, the gods, the 3 new gods, are also pretty decent options for commanders. Go figure. They actually fixed the problem there with Amonkhet. With the follow-up here is that they actually gave us good gods for commander. And the Scarab God was the first one we have spoiled. He's the one that synergizes with -1/-1 counters. So he's Rakdos color. So the immediate thing that I thought was, okay, Wither. Wither's going to be a big deal because there's that black-red enchantment that, all damage is dealt as though its source had Wither. So that's one immediate thought that came to my mind. So those 2 cards would synergize pretty well. And, black has a lot of infect strategies and a lot of strategies that can help deal -1/-1 counters. And there are cards like Black Sun Zenith. So anything that synergizes with -1/-1 counters, it's kind of like Hepatra a little bit, but not to the degree where you have to focus a lot of your deck around -1/-1 counters to make your strategy work. And if he dies, he returns to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. That alone is pretty good too. And he is indestructible too, I think. Or is he not? I don't think he is. But if he does die, you do get him back at the beginning of the next end step. So he's just a good value creature. And the Locust God is one I'm really excited for. Make an Izzet build where you draw a bunch of cards and you get a bunch of little flying locusts. That's awesome. Because it's so easy to draw cards. There's a ton of cantrips, and we have cards like Rhystic Study. So you can just keep on doing that over and over again to get a ton of little locust dudes. And we have Talrend, Sky Summoner. So if you can have any sort of strategy where you're just casting cantrips and getting like little drakes, and you can also get locusts, and you can just keep doing that over and over again, that's awesome. That is really freaking cool. And as also the thing where it dies, you return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it has that benefit as well. And then we have the Scarab God, which was the last one spoiled. And that one was the one that synergizes with zombies. Zombies are pretty cool. Although I personally wouldn't consider it as a zombie, because I usually like having on theme. Like if I'm playing a tribal deck, I usually want my commander to be that tribe. It's not a terrible option, but I would much rather prefer, let's say play something like a Cedrus Trader King, where it's a zombie. But there are other options too. You could play Grimgrin and dim your colors. Doesn't synergize as well. But I mean, who am I to say that? I don't play zombies. I don't like zombies. But the Scarab God does look pretty sexy in that type of build. So definitely consider it if you're going to play the whole zombie shit. I love it. I think it's interesting. We are playing Fallout 4 here, in case you didn't notice. I decided to change it up here. Got a little bored of Left 4 Dead, and I just wanted to play a game that I could milk as long as I possibly can. I'm really just playing video games for the background of my videos. I'm not playing them to be like, oh, look at me, I'm a pretty good video game player or anything like that. I don't play PC games. I'm not a hardcore gamer. I don't do any of that. Alright, people have been jumping my ass about that the whole time. So, back onto Hour of Devastation. I am one who digresses a lot, in case you haven't noticed. But Hour of Devastation looks like a pretty good set compared to Amonkhet. If I had to say, it's definitely one that's going to supplement it pretty well when we talk about drafts, which is why I asked you guys to let me know what your pre-releases were like, if you went to pre-release. If you didn't, what's your thoughts on the set? I like Nicol Bolas. I really do. I think it's definitely good that we got a Nicol Bolas. He's pretty good. I thought they were going to dumb him down or make him extremely harder to cast, make him like 5-colored, because he's that powerful, and it wouldn't be, out of the realm of possibility to see a 5-color, Planeswalker. But I guess he's never going to lose that Grixis identity, because he's always been Grixis all the way back to Legends. So, it would make sense if he never stopped being Grixis, but I would have also understood if he became 5-color, because he's just that fucking powerful, and he would have regained some sort of power. I don't even understand the fucking story right now, but it would have been pretty cool to have a 5-color Bolas, nevertheless. And as far as the Samut goes, I'm not really too certain about her. She's probably going to find a place somewhere in Commander, but nothing too serious. Maybe 5-color Super Friends at best, but she looks more like a creature triggered type of deck, or creature focused type of deck. What am I saying? Triggered. I'm so triggered right now. I'm just saying triggered. Triggered. I don't know why I'm triggered right now. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, this was a pretty sad moment in Fallout 4. I just completely talked right over it. Look at this. Falling on the ground there. Your husband just died. You lost your baby. Oh my gosh. Your life is like over right now. You're just miserable as fuck. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, like, share it. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. I do have a lot of good content. I do top 10s. I do deck techs. In fact, I just did another deck tech. I redid my Azami Lady of Scrolls one, Wizard Tribal. So if you like Wizard Tribal, the sound of it, please check that out. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. Void Mage Gamer signing off.